Did you take a look at the Canelo and Crawford presser?
Yeah.
Yeah. I know people. All right, so here, great question for you. When you've been a part of press conferences, what was your mentality in a press conference? Were you trying to send a message to your opponent? Like, what was your...
I was more of a humble guy,
Yeah.
Nice and relaxed, and let the guy talk and let him do his thing, and just most of the time I would just say, well, we'll see when we fight,
Yeah.
and that type of thing. I was never really big into the back and forth thing. I know social media, and I know it gets views, it goes viral when they do this and do that. But I was more of a guy like relaxed, like old school.
Did you ever have anybody come after you?
Well, I did. I had a guy named Troy Fletcher from Philadelphia.
What up, Troy?
And yeah, he started with the mouth and all that,
Was it a Philly-Pittsburgh thing?
Yeah,
okay.
sort of like that. But it was okay.
Yeah. What did you take from the press conference?
Well, before Paul, did you, because you mentioned that kind of stuff, that's what drives the fight and gets clicks and stuff. Do you think Canelo and Crawford are in part feeding into that? That's why they're doing it?
I really don't think they got to even do nothing. Like, they don't have to do that. I just think that it's going to be a great fight. And two of the best are fighting the best. I mean, my opinion, I think you can put Crawford in any position, and man, for some way he knows how to figure it out to get out of that position.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's a man. And he got that dog in him.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's the scariest thing for me, because he got so much dog in him. I would hate to get out of pocket and get caught slipping.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Does that make any
sense? You
mean
him being against Canelo?
Being stubborn and
trying to make a point.
Because he's that type of dude. He'll get down with you in a heartbeat.
Yeah. Talked to him. I think I shared this on the podcast before, but I talked to him after his fight. I went into the locker room to see him after he fought Errol Spence Jr., and I didn't get a chance to speak to him, but on my way out of the room, I was talking to his cousin, a couple other people, and I think it might have been Shakur, but somebody said, yo, he didn't even have a game plan. I said, what? He said he didn't have a game plan. He was asking us what he should do before the fight.
Shakur specifically, right?
So I think it was Shakur that said that. So then I talked to Crawford after the fight, and I know I talked to him on the podcast about this specifically, but then I talked to him afterwards, and I said, stop saying you didn't have a game plan. You had a game plan. He said, look, Sean, we had a game plan, but in the locker room before the fight, I just was fired up and I wanted to go right after him. He said, so in the locker room, after a full training camp of knowing this is systematically how we're going to beat Errol, he is literally, because of that dog, trying to divert away from the system. And he said that they told him, like, nah, just, just box and it'll come. And he said he had, even walking out to the ring, he had it like, just so much energy, passion, dog. Yeah. He wanted to go right after Errol, know? So using that story again to relate to everyone, you're right. That dog is going to be there. And he understands that he has to be smart. And I think with this one specifically, it ain't just about being smart. He knows he has to look like he's never looked before, because again, if he doesn't and he beats Canelo, everybody's just gonna say, well, that's Crawford, So I think he knows that this is the performance of a lifetime, and everything has to look right. He knows in order for it to look right, he can't just go out there and let the dog go. The dog is, he got to work his way up to the dog. Yeah. Hey, show the clip real quick. I don't know if you showed it already, but this is the dog you talking about right here, right? And so I pulled this clip right here. I seen it on social media this morning.
Don't do that. That's what I'm saying.
And I pulled this clip, right? But this is Terrence.
That's who he is.
He's not gonna swing on Canelo. He already know that part of the game. But what I asked you, were you ever trying to send a message to your opponents? He's letting you know, and it's no act. And that's what I really wanted to show, is that's not an act.
No.
That's not there's 30 security guards.
I don't know, it feels a little contrived.
You think so?
I think a lot of people feel it's a little like.
Well, I'm glad you used a big word that most of us don't know.
Hey, I don't fight as good as you guys. I had to learn some big words, right, to make up for that.
Don't look it up. Just ignore.
You need big words to get out of fights. You know, you need big words to get out of fights. But okay. So case in point, our guy Hafey, sitting right there, producer extraordinaire. He had a picture of Terrence Crawford in New York for the Crawford Spence press conference. And there was this look when Terrence, he gave this look to Spence that reminded me of like Dwight Muhammad Kawi and a young George Foreman. And like, I've seen that look before. It was that look of, I'm not the one to fuck with, right? And that, so I haven't seen that Terrence Crawford against Canelo in these two press conferences. They're having dinner. They have the presser in Riyadh. They have the presser in New York. That's a weak ass push by Canelo. And, that is not Canelo. What he did with Caleb Plant, that was real. He slipped him and then slapped him. And that was like, okay. This felt like, hey, social media saying you guys are being too friendly. We're paying you all this money. We're putting the knockout bonus there. Come on, we got a fight to sell. Let's heat this up a little bit. Obviously, they're both great fighters, and they're both coming to win. But I don't want to get too deep into it today, but my thoughts on the big picture, like what's looming, the fight to me, because I'm the journalist, right, is an afterthought to me.
Is that the one real quick? Is that the one right behind?
That's the one. Yeah. That's the one from Ryan, who, shout out to Ryan. He's a producer. He's a photographer. This to me is one of the best photos of Terrence Crawford. Yeah. And look at Spence looking down. That's a shark looking at his prey.
He's checking his
and I haven't seen Paulie that look to Canelo Alvarez yet. And actually Canelo, I flip-flopped on. At first I'm thinking Canelo looks so bad against Skull that I got to change my pick to Crawford now. And I hate doing this armchair psychology stuff, but Canelo to me seems to have been woken up from that Skull performance a little bit. And when Crawford was saying, I'm different, right? I'm different. It's like, you're talking to Canelo like he hasn't lost already. You're talking like you're going to be the first guy. And Canelo looked at him and he's like, no, you're not. Basically, you're not all that. Yeah. I've seen better. Yeah. I've seen better. You're not as big as Dimitri Bivol. You're not as good as Floyd Mayweather. Yeah. Those guys beat me, but I'm just saying, no, you're not different. I've seen this before. I'm different. Yeah. You haven't fought anybody like Canelo Alvarez. But the fight feels a little bit like an afterthought because the press conference, people are eating it up. It feels like UFC, but I'm a boxing guy. I'm not a UFC guy.
Yeah, me too.
And it's got the WWE, UFC production value, and
but you gotta have that.
I get it. I know,
but you gotta have that.
I get it.
This thing and it's good for you, but this thing just has not ever evolved, and I can say ever. And it's good for you because you're a purist that has gone back and watched the old school, and so it's like through the years of the graphics of TV, even though that's changed. Nothing else about boxing has changed. You know what I mean? I did want to speak real quick about the amateur boxing that we got to over the weekend.
Right. And Paul was there too.
Yeah. You got anything else on that?
Just that I only say it's an afterthought because what looms in the back. I think the big play here, TKO Zuffa is gonna have Trump at the fight. And Trump's gonna go, I love what they're doing, love what Dana's doing in Turkey. It reminds me of what I did in the 80s with Tyson. I love it, it's just what it needs. And they're gonna hope to send him on his way back to the White House to repeal the Ali Act so they can eventually take over the sport. And Canelo and Crawford are making crazy money, but that's in the hopes that one day they can take over the sport and pay fighters like they pay them in the UFC. That to me is the story. Canelo didn't want to fight Benavidez. Crawford to a lesser degree than Boots, but Crawford with Boots, and instead they're fighting each other and making a whole bunch of money for Saudi Arabia and Dana and Ari Emanuel and TKO, and these people are going to want to take over the sport, and they're using them as instruments to eventually get what they want in the long term. That's the story to me. Someone's going to win. Someone's going to lose. Someone's fanboys are going to be mad. Someone's fanboys are going to go, ha, 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 our guy won. Okay, but to me, the story is the long-term implications of the people putting on this fight.
I tell you the two things that I really like about this fight. Like, number one, I like that it's on Netflix, and His Excellency spoke on how the pirating, you know, it's harder. You know, Netflix is pretty locked in, so you gotta you know, get to it in order to see it. And I love that it's on Netflix because, again, a lot like with Prime, you have people that don't watch boxing now have the opportunity to see, oh, this is going to be on, and oh, this is what everybody's talking about, so on and so forth. I believe it's going to be a snowball effect, and they'll get the sale and all the viewership that they want from that standpoint. The other thing that I really like, I like the fight is happening like in the early afternoon, right?
I don't know. Turkey seemed to shoot that down.
Oh, so
because Oscar said it, and then
I noticed that.
Yeah,
I noticed that.
So I saw on I thought the press conference he said that it was going to happen. He said they're gonna do like a breakfast, and then they're gonna do the fight. And
I guess that was a joke. I guess he was being sarcastic.
Oh, okay, I missed it.
That's how I looked at it.
Yeah.
I take everything the man say serious, y'all.
Yeah.
Should the fight happen in the afternoon?
No.
Should it happen in the afternoon? I personally would like that, because in this fight right here, where you got literally black against Mexican, the crowd is gonna be hot, and the crowd gonna be hot the whole fight. And I told this story on the podcast not too long ago. Victor Ortiz and Floyd Mayweather. We know that there was, you know, that the headbutt situation that happened, and the guy that I was with, I said, "Yo, we need to go," and he was like, "Yo, why?" I was like, "Let's get out. I promise y'all. We got up out of our seats, and as we got into the aisle, fight broke out right there. Right. You know, so just the point of all that, I think the earlier some of these fights happen, the better chance we have of things not happening. You know, people aren't getting intoxicated the same way at the noon hours as they are at the 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, you know, a.m. hours. And I when I heard that, I was like, okay, you wanted something, because you're giving people the opportunity to view it at a reasonable hour, not that midnight BS that boxing is always pulling.
It drags on.
Not that,
especially if you're living on the East Coast.
Let's stop. You know, so I don't know. I like it overall. I'm looking forward to it. You looking forward to it?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I can't wait.
Yeah.